Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this tournament showdown. It's going to be myself and the Skaven with the Grey Seer facing off against the Wood Elves, Hitman Hippo, and the Spellweaver of the Darkness. Now, as far as my build goes, it's going to be a lot of rats, which of course is no surprise, being the Skaven of course, although my opponent does have 13 units as well. So frontline's going to be clan rats, and I used to kind of use more Skaven slaves as a buffer, but clan rats just in domination mode I think are quite a bit better to have as your main core because they of course have good capture weight, and Skaven slaves do have expendable capture weight, which can be very, very important. And honestly, clan rats don't do that badly. They can fight against dryads and Eternal Guard, and yeah, they'll lose those fights, but they hold their own and allow your other pieces to do well. So, also, two gutter runners. One of poison and one is not going to have poison. You don't need to have poison on both if you're going to be running them together in a goon squad. You're just paying extra money. The damage output is the exact same, and the stats are the exact same on them, really. It's just that you're getting poison. So you don't need to pay for that if you're bringing two of them, if they're going to be working together, which is usually how I operate. So we got two of those guys, and the reason you have them is because if you don't have some sort of like ranged buffering piece, they can run in with a caster and cast dwellers below in your plague claw catapults. They can just fly dragons over your army, breath attack your important pieces. Things can get very ugly. So having these skirmishers to go out front, just kind of buffer off your opponent's good pieces, certainly pays the dues. Avalanche mortars, these things are amazing. Very, very expensive. If they do get taken out early, you're going to be in huge trouble. They cost 1,550 gold if I'm not mistaken. But if these things are allowed to shoot, they can single-handedly turn the tide of a game. Just bombing infantry, archers, whatever they shoot, that except single entities, of course, is basically just going to get eviscerated. So you have them backed up by some ogres. And now in the tree line here, we do have the plague claw catapult. So these guys just going to be sitting back here and taking pot shots at dryads. And honestly, just a great piece of artillery. They do great against archers, against infantry. They also have a discouraging effect. So even if they have, let's say, like a dragon that's about to break, it's at 10 leadership, you can shoot it with this thing. And if you make any contact whatsoever, you can get a break. I really like those catapults. For the same reason that like the Hawkeyes of Drakira and the Wood Elves are quite good, being able to instantly nuke something's leadership is quite valuable. Now, we do also have the Grey Seer. I am really against the Skaven unsummoning playstyle where you bring a Lord and just unsummon it, or the Skaven Slave Lord. I think it's super stupid. So we brought the most Chad Skaven Lord here. It's going to be the Grey Seer in the trees, and he's got some fun spells. Now, Howling Warp Gale is essential against Wood Elves, against Sisters of Twilight, dragons, anything like that getting into your backfield. Crack's Call is a fun one. It does a ton of damage, will pretty much auto-delete an infantry unit, and we do have Warp Lightning as well with the Warp Storm Scroll. So you can really lock down flying units with this bad boy, use Howling Warp Gale and then also the Warp Storm Scroll. And he's basically just going to be hiding in the trees and popping out, being very inconspicuous and, just trying to blend in with the rest of the army. Now, fun treats for you guys as well. I do have a DOOMWHEEL in this army, and ladies and gentlemen, that DOOMWHEEL will be coming out, and I've been having fun with DOOMWHEELs lately. Deepwood Scouts, Swift Shiver Shards, Way Watchers, and another Deepwood Scout with the Swift Shiver Shards. We do have a Spellsinger of Life who's going to be coming in with Dwellers and Earthblood, and this is what I'm talking about. If I didn't have my gutter runners here, he would be able to run up right here, cast the Dwellers on my artillery on any number of targets, and I wouldn't be able to I could dodge it with those units, but being able to just kind of keep them away in the first place, I think is a little bit more valuable. Now in the back, Eternal Guards with Dryads, just kind of classic line here. Eternal Guards are okay against Skaven. I'm more of a fan of Dryads. Granted, these guys do have shields and anti-large, so if there are Rat Ogres in the mix, they can do a little bit better, but I just think the killing power of Dryads is more efficient. Although it looks like he's just going for a very wide build. He's got a ton of units, and there is going to be some treachery on the side. It looks like it is going to be a Spellweaver of the Darkness. Oh, interesting. So he's got a Spellweaver in the shadows, and she's basically just channeling some dark rituals here in the trees. Power of Darkness to get Winds of Magic for the other caster. It's kind of a cool combo. I didn't notice that during the game, but makes a little bit of sense now. So the battle is on. My opponent doing a bit of a Wood Elf flank here. He's got his Deepwood Scouts as well as the Way Watchers around the side. Probably going to be trying to concave in and move in and shoot my Avalanche Mortars, because I currently can't see him. These units all have stock, but yeah, now he's getting into range, and I will be discovering them in a second. I do also have some units hiding in the trees here, some clan rats with shields, going to be moving up towards Objective 3. The first volley does come down, and he gets a pretty decent little shot there on the Avalanche Mortars. Brings him down to about 80%, so certainly not a bad opening there, but I'm pretty aware of it now. I know where his archers are, so I'm just going to move my Avalanche Mortars over to the other side, and obviously it would take him a long time to reposition these archers all the way over to the other side, especially now that I have eyes on him. So I felt like the Avalanche Mortars after that initial opening would be relatively safe. Now we do have our two gutter runners, these brave little rats of Clan Eshin moving up, throwing their ninja stars, picking off some of the archers right here. Our plague claw catapults will be turning to line them up, but he was out of range. He kept the Deepwood Scouts back, and they were getting, I think, just out of range of my plague claw catapults. Yeah, you can see the range is kind of right here. So just trying to get my hold on the 2 objectives. This is a very, very good Skaven map. It's super open, so weapons teams and artillery and all those different things are really going to shine on a map like this. Dwarves, Empire, anyone that really has that. Tomb Kings, for example, Vampire Coast. I think this is one of the best artillery kind of defensive. Well, I mean, it is very open, and there are some like ways they can approach your backfield through the woods and whatnot, but generally, the few times I played this map, this is like my 2nd or 3rd time playing it. It's very, very good for artillery, so... We do get the 2 objectives. The 3rd one is being contested. My clan rats here just eating the shots. But, you know, they're eating those arrows in the face for the horned rat. It's not for no purpose here. And the bravest Skaven I've ever seen sitting at 2 leadership right here as they get pounded by elite archers. But that's good. If ammunition is being used on just, like, crappy shielded rats like this, that's definitely a bit of a win. So we tried to move in with the Glade Riders, but I did have my Rat Ogres in defense, and the 2 Gutter Runners kind of pop up to throw their little Ninja Stars. And you can see how useful having this little Vanguard force is. And once again, the Ninja Star is going to be thrown. They do have 360 shooting, so these guys can turn and throw and do some anime moves as the Riders do try and close on them. But the Glade Rider is going to get buffered out by the Rat Ogres. I would imagine his archers will probably tee off, but he does micro back there, and he summons in a Forest Dragon as well. Now, Forest Dragons, not bad. They do cause terror, breath attacks, but the Howling Warp Gale hopefully will be useful. I have emerged with my Grace here. I was hiding it in the trees until I could see what his Lord was, or like if he had any sort of sniping abilities, but when I realized he didn't really have much to snipe me with, I was like, let's bring the Grace here out and just have him ready to kind of deal with the dragon. Avalanche Mortars, big shots. That was an accident, though. Do waste it on some of the Glade Riders right there. But now my opponent's going to be advancing through the trees because I'm already up 200 points out of the 1,500, so you can't really afford to wait too long. So the Wood Elves, they will be sounding the horn of Karnas as they move up through the tree line. I really like the aesthetic of Wood Elves. It's super cool. Look at the big line of formation. There's few games that can really capture that like big battlefield element like Total War can. Spellsinger of Life on the run, and you can see the little Gutter Runners forcing it back. It looks like there was going to be an attempt at a Dwellers or something like that. The Gracier of Rune moving up to cast a Howling Warp Gale on the Forest Dragon. On the other side, I sent some Clan Rats over here, and we do also have some Clan Rat Spears that have rallied, but he does get Dryads up on the point with his Vanguard deployment. So ultimately, I'm not really going to be able to do a whole lot. Now, the big bombardment's coming out, and these things will hurt if they hit. First shot comes in and brings down an Eternal Guard to half health. Those Avalanche Mortars are so good. It's weird because they kind of fell off in the meta for no particular reason. People weren't really using them, but lately I've been seeing them being used quite a bit, and they're very, very good. So Howling Warp Gale down. It's going to be trapping this dragon up in the sky for about 10-15 seconds, which is nice. Buys me a little bit of time to reposition my Gutter Runners and get in front of the dragon. Pulling back now is the Clan Rats. The bravest Rats will be moving in to battle the Eternal Guard. In a straight fight, I think Eternal Guard win because of their super high melee defense, but honestly, Clan Rats from a cost perspective trade super well. And they are going to be going fisticuffs as the Plague Claw Catapult's now shooting into the Dryads, and our little Gutter Runners are throwing some Ninja Stars up into the Dragon. Earthblood going down to mitigate the little damage the Dragon did take, but so far we're adequately protected. On the far side here, the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers are screening out some of the archers, and we're going to be summoning in some Wolf Rats. So we got the double Wolf Rats coming out of the trees, these Skaven Hound units. I saw he was pretty committed to the battle, like he had summoned in some cab units, meaning they probably weren't in reserve. So now would be a good time to pull in the Wolf Rats to ambush some of the archers here on the other side. So more Skaven Slaves on the way, more Skaven Slaves here, and the front line is holding. And honestly, Clan Rats trading very well, but the Wheel of Doom is here, baby! We got the Doom Wheel out. I forgot to show you guys there was an engagement on the side where he tried to flank me with some War Dancers right over here, and the Doom Wheel was able to crush them. He's got all 3 objectives, but the Doom Wheel is actually not a bad asset here. It can cause terror, obviously. There goes a Warp Lightning coming in from the Grace here, and look at the formation just buckling as these bad boys are contaminated, and the Doom Wheel is, of course, going to be doing some good anti-infantry damage. But a triple cap from my opponent, a little bit scary. Wolf Rats do good around the side. One Wolf Rat able to jump on the Deepwood Scouts, the other one jumping on the Way Watchers here, and talk about cost effective. These little Wolf Rats, of course, are relatively cheap. Smoke Bomb being used by the Hawkeyes of Drakira, so it's an ability they do have, which is a slow. Kind of forces my Rats to, break, actually, with the charge coming in from the Spellsinger, but more Rats are going to be hot on the hunt, while we switch the Plague Claw Catapult Fire onto the Hawkeyes of Drakira and continue to get good damage. But nobody expects the dreaded Doom Wheel, right? Like, I'm not using any of the Poison Wing Globadiers, which are super meta and super common, but the Doom Wheel coming in. And honestly, the Wood Elf army outside of the Hawkeyes and the Way Watchers doesn't have a whole lot that's good against it, and it is rolling, doing Limp Bizkit proud, as it does get the terror routes on several of these units, and it's kind of weird to see the Skaven like actually winning frontline engagements with the monster stuff. But we get a good catch here. The Spellsinger does get caught by the Wolf Rats, so maybe we're going to be able to get a pick. Wolf Rats do have really good DPS, actually. They have almost 30 melee attack here with the Chevron, and also their weapon strength isn't terrible either. Catapult's still shooting into the Hawkeyes of Drakira. Those guys getting contaminated and absolutely pounded here. I would wager my opponent going to be summoning in some cav to try and free up that caster, and it looks like the caster will indeed come back, as we have a massive value lead. So 7.7 to 2.9, absolute just firing gallery here in the backfield with our catapults doing very well as our Avalanche Mortars. Now, we do also have the Pit Fighters of Helm's Deep. I like to use them as a backline defensive tool against monsters. They are immune to psychology, which is very nice. We do also get a Howling Warp Gale here on the dragon, and a couple Gutter Runners come in to apply poison and pin that dragon in place. However, my opponent does get on top of the catapult. The Rat Ogres kind of got juked a little bit, but they should be able to peel it off, and the Catapult crew should come back online. Side objective going to be taken by the double Rat Ogres, so the Ogres are able to grab this one. It's just what I had in reserves. I would have rather summoned some like Clan Rats and things like that, but it's what I had. While the Wolf Rats are still feasting on many of the archers in the backfield and causing quite a bit of havoc. On the other side, the Doomwheel maneuvering over. Obviously, Dryads normally would be a huge problem for Clan Rats. They would just cut through them like butter. But with the Wheel of Doom moving in, we're going to get some good damage here, and these Dryads probably will end up losing this fight simply because they really don't do any damage against the Doomwheel. However, the Eternal Guard here might be able to do a little something, as my opponent's caster does come back, and the Dwellers below probably going to be turning the tide of the fight as the Earth reaches up and reclaims. So it's not really like reclaiming their own thing, but they do drag the rats back to the pits from whence they came. So Doomwheel's going to be holding here. We do get our Avalanche Mortar and our Plague Claw Catapult shooting over here, and you can see the Terror in tandem with the Contaminated effect, really able to just absolutely punish this position, and the Doomwheel might actually be able to stabilize that. Now, looking on the far side, we do have some Ogres now maneuvering across, and knowing that I'm going to be moving off Objective 3, always kind of got to plan a little bit ahead in Domination. We summoned in some Skaven Slaves and some Clan Rats, and also some Globadiers are going to be getting summoned in. I did have one in my army, I think, and we need to make sure we hold that objective. Now, on the far side here, we have this one for now. The Doomwheel able to push off the threats. The Gutter Runners on their way up. We do also have some Wolf Rats, which are pretty good at clearing up loose infantry. The little Wolf Rat's going to run in with the Doomwheel and hopefully cause some havoc, and there are the Poison Wing Globadiers. So I didn't bring them in my starting army. I feel like that's really predictable. Most people are going to be expecting that. Crack's Call going down to the middle. I haven't really got a good chance to show you guys, but I've been using Crack's Call pretty much all game on this Grey Seer, and I don't know what kind of value he's got, but it's basically wiped out 2 Dryad units. Yeah, it's got about 800 value, so it hasn't been bad at all. So Ogre's moving in. My opponent really behind in value, down by almost 6,000. And he does have a little bit of healing, so maybe let's just say 5,000 value. But that is still a big difference. Now we have a good stranglehold on this point. Couple Skaven Slaves as well as Clan Rats. The middle owned by the Wood Elves. And it looks like I'm up on points. I still have that 2 cap. Doomwheel just doing great work, as our Gutter Runners unfortunately have run out of ammunition. But those Avalanche Mortars, even in the 4th quarter of the game, just pounding the Hawkeyes of Drakira. And I think they literally have like a couple models left. Finally, he's able to get on top of my artillery, so he does get his Glade Riders, very well played there, and does shut down my Plague Claw Catapult, but not before it uses most of its ammo. Another Howling Warp Gale and Warp Storm Scroll going down to the Dragon to keep that thing offline here, as now I'm doing a little bit of Skaven housekeeping. And if you guys are looking to play Skaven in multiplayer, you need to be really on top of housekeeping and unsummoning units that are on death's bed, because you can rapidly run out of units and just have them scattered all over the battlefield routing if you're not unsummoning them effectively. But Hawkeyes of Drakira finally going to go down. The Wolf Rats do get on top of them, going to be feasting like the Heathen Kings of old, and some of the Clan Rats that have rallied are going to be on their way back in. So the Hawkeyes will finally be shut down. A very expensive unit, but nonetheless, they are going to go as we do grab the middle objective, and it's honestly looking like that's probably going to be GG. We do get some War Dancers on the way in, but the War Dancers, ironically, are going to be hard countered by the Doomwheel. Doomwheel hasn't gotten a ton of value. It's like just under 1,000 at this point, if memory serves, but it's still something that, like, is just really disruptive against infantry. And I really would love to see units like Doomwheels come back. I always thought they were one of the most iconic things. It's literally a hamster wheel being used in competitive play. And, you know, this was a tournament, and currently this was a match in a Swiss league I'm playing in, so you play 1 game a week, and, you know, after like 6 weeks, you have a grand final. So this is, you know, I'm playing a strong opponent here. He was also undefeated in the first couple weeks, and you can see the Doomwheel working against him well, right? Rat Ogres, Clan Rats moving in, Skaven Slaves not going to be able to get this objective. We do have some Rattling Gunners on the way in. It's basically all I had in reserves. And the reason why you bring Rattling Gunners is if you're facing dragons or sisters and they're diving over your army, you just park the Rattling Gunners in the middle of your formation and you last samurai those bad boys. But absolutely running over the War Dancers here. Doomwheel able to clean them up. Wolf Rats chasing down the Archers and the Hawkeyes of Drakira. And that's going to be GG. My opponent will fight a little bit longer here. We do get some Rattling Gunners. I know you guys want some of the sweet action as the Rattling Gunners do unload here. They're okay against infantry for sure, but Rattling Gunners, in my experience, are best used for dealing with single entity models and monsters cavalry and things like that, whereas Globadiers and Mortars and Plague Claw Catapults are more of your, like, I'm going to mess up your infantry type thing. But there's no coming back from this, guys. It's a 5,000 value lead, and the Wood Elves, like I said, have a little bit of healing, just kind of using some dreaded Reaganomics and trickling things in, but the Plague Claw Catapults just hammering the army, and that is going to be GG. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. You know, I wanted to show that Skaven can be made to work even without that stupid unsummoning cheese. And I still think they're a good faction on certain maps. There's going to be maps that are hard for them, but honestly, like open field maps that are a little bit bigger like that, like Borderlow Landing, like this bad boy, which is the crossing of Talabheim, or the roads to Talabheim. Like they're pretty viable, honestly. I really liked the cheap Grey Seer. He was great. He had some good utility. He paid for himself. He only cost like 1,100, if that even. The 2 gunner runners are essential. If you guys are playing this matchup, I 100% recommend them. Avalanche mortars, they just barely paid for themselves, but still they required a lot of my opponent's attention and were a perpetual threat. Play Claw Catapult, super good. You could even cut the Avalanche mortars and get a second catapult, but I do think the Avalanche mortars can just be super devastating, so I would recommend them. Now the Doomwheel, I didn't hate it, because like Wild Riders, Glade Riders, those type of units can't really do much against its armor. I mean, they kind of can. So yeah, I recommend the Doomwheel. If you can avoid Way Watchers, they can do some work. Give it a try. It might not work, it might, but that's how Skaven roll. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes things explode in their face. Very, very Skaven stuff. So looking over here, guys, what do we got? Looking at the archers, 1,000, 700, 800. So his archers certainly did good work, but none of the infantry really did, which is kind of normal. Typically, Skaven are very good at killing infantry. So yeah, that's their jam. GG, well played. See you guys next time. This was game 1 in our series. Game 2 will be coming up sometime in the next few days, which was Mind Urgle versus his Khorne on the Crucible. So stay tuned for that. Well played to Hitman Hippo, and that's going to be it for tonight.